Welcome. If you are watching this, chances are you are caring for someone you love, a parent, a spouse, maybe even a dear friend. You have probably noticed small changes. They are sleeping more, eating less, they seem quieter or less interested in things they once loved. And while these changes might seem small at first, they often mean something bigger is going on. That is why this video matters. It is not here to scare you. It is here to help you understand. When we can recognize these signs early, we can give our loved ones something priceless, not more medicine or another appointment, but our presence, our time, our love. You see, too many families wait until the last moment. They miss the subtle shifts, and when the end comes, they are left with regret, wishing they had said more or done things differently. By watching this video, you are choosing something different. You are choosing to be aware, to be ready, to be there. You will learn about 5 signs that someone may be approaching their final year. We will explore what each one means, how it might look, and most importantly, how you can respond. Because your response, your care, your presence, it can change everything for them. So take a deep breath. You are not alone in this. We are here to walk with you. Let's be honest. Recognizing when someone is nearing the end of life is hard. Hard. It does not happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, in the quiet details. Maybe you notice mom is skipping meals, or grandpa does not want to come to the dinner table anymore. At first, you might say, she is just tired, or he is just getting older. But deep down, something feels off. That feeling? It matters, and it is worth paying attention to. The hardest part is the emotional side. We want to believe they will bounce back. We hope that next week they will eat more, feel stronger, and maybe even go for a walk. But sometimes those hopes keep us from seeing what is going on, and by the time we realize the truth, we may have missed important moments. That is why this conversation is so important. We are not here to talk about fear, we are here to talk about awareness, because when you know what to look for, everything changes. You begin to show up differently. You stop trying to fix what cannot be fixed, and instead, you start being present. You shift from trying to make things normal to making things meaningful. The 5 signs we are about to share are not a checklist. They are patterns that many people in their final year show. Not always, and not all at once, but when they appear, especially together, they are like a quiet message from the body saying, it is time to slow down, time to be here. So let's take this next step together. Let's look at these signs one by one with open eyes and open hearts. I remember one family I worked with who kept thinking their dad was just having a rough week, but as the signs added up, they finally saw the truth. Once they stopped pushing him to recover, they gave him space to rest, to be comfortable, and to feel loved. It changed everything. The first. Significant weight loss. Let's start with one of the earliest and most visible signs that something may be changing. Weight loss. Not the kind where someone is trying to get healthier or dieting on purpose. I am talking about weight loss that just happens. Quietly. Slowly, almost without anyone noticing at first. Maybe one day you realize their clothes are hanging a little looser, their belt needs a new hole punched, or they push food around on the plate more than they eat. They say things like, I'm just not that hungry, or food doesn't taste the same anymore. You might think it's just age, people eat less when they get older, but here is the truth. Unexpected, unintentional weight loss can be one of the body's first ways of telling us that it is slowing down. What is happening inside the body is subtle but serious. The digestive system may not be working as efficiently. They may not be absorbing nutrients the way they used to. Muscles begin to break down, especially when protein is not being processed properly. This is not just about getting thinner. It is about losing strength. And when strength disappears, so does independence. I have seen this happen in families. A dad who once mowed the lawn every Saturday slowly starts asking for help just walking to the kitchen. A mom who used to cook for everyone now needs help getting out of bed. And all of it starts with something we often overlook, that slow, quiet weight loss. It is also connected to illnesses we cannot always see. Conditions like cancer, heart failure, and kidney disease often cause appetite loss long before any other symptoms appear. Even depression or cognitive decline can make food feel meaningless. It becomes more of a chore than a joy. When that happens, people stop eating, not because they are trying to waste away, but because their body, and often their mind, is beginning to let go. This is where the family often tries to step in. They bring their favorite meals, they offer snacks, shakes, or supplements. They plead, "Please, just eat a little." And sometimes it helps, but sometimes it doesn't, because when the body is preparing to shut down, food becomes less important. So what can we do instead? We can stop focusing on calories and start focusing on comfort. Instead of 3 big meals, offer small bites throughout the day. Sit with them. Eat together, even if they are only having a spoonful of pudding. Let meals become moments of connection, not pressure. And most of all, listen. Listen when they say they are full. Listen when they say food does not taste right. Honor what they are feeling, even when it is hard to hear. Because weight loss at this stage is not a problem to fix, it is a message. And when we respond with love and presence, rather than panic, we give them exactly what they need most: presence, patience, and peace. I remember my neighbor's mother, who used to be full of life. When she began losing weight, we thought it was just age catching up. But it turned out her body was starting to slow down. Instead of forcing food, they started sitting with her, eating beside her, making every meal feel warm and comforting. That changed everything. Her appetite didn't return fully, but her spirit lifted. The second, extreme fatigue and weakness. Now, let's talk about something that shows up in quiet, powerful ways: fatigue. And not just regular tiredness. We are talking about a kind of deep, constant exhaustion that does not go away no matter how much someone sleeps. You might notice your loved one waking up tired. They rest all day and still need another nap. They might say, "I just feel worn out," or "I don't have the energy today." At first, it may not seem serious. Everyone feels tired now and then. But when fatigue becomes the norm instead of the exception, it is often a sign that the body is slowing down. The energy that used to go toward daily activities is now being rerouted. The body starts to conserve its strength, using it only for the most essential functions. Simple tasks that were once easy now feel impossible. Taking a shower feels like climbing a mountain. Walking from the bedroom to the kitchen is exhausting. Even having a conversation can leave them completely drained. This change can be hard to accept, both for them and for you. You may want to encourage them to get moving, to stay active, to do the things they used to love. That is natural. You want them to feel alive. But pushing them too hard can backfire. It can leave them feeling frustrated, embarrassed, or even ashamed that they cannot keep up. I remember a friend whose father used to love working in his garden. As his energy faded, he started spending his days sitting on the porch, watching the yard instead. At first, it broke their hearts, but eventually they realized he found peace in being near the place he once tended with so much joy. He didn't need to dig in the dirt anymore, just sitting close to it was enough. Extreme fatigue is not laziness. It is not giving up. It is the body saying, "I am tired and I need to rest." And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let them rest. So how can we respond? Start by adjusting expectations. Instead of asking them to do more, offer them the chance to do less without guilt. If they need to sleep in, let them. If they only feel up to 1 activity a day, that is okay. Give them the space to slow down in a way that feels safe and supported. Be there in the stillness. Sit beside them. Hold their hand. Watch a show together. Say a few words, or none at all. Your presence is powerful, even in silence. Sometimes, especially in silence, because at this stage it is not about productivity, it is about presence. And presence is the most powerful gift you can give. Fatigue may take their energy, but it does not take their need to feel loved, seen, and valued. And with your understanding, they can feel all of that, even in their quietest moments. Families often ask, should we push them a little? But the answer is often no. What they need more than a schedule or structure is the freedom to rest. And when we give them that space, we allow their final days to feel more peaceful, more human, and more whole. The third, cognitive decline and emotional withdrawal. Let's talk about something that is deeply emotional and often very hard to witness: when the mind begins to change. This is not just forgetting a name or misplacing the remote. It is something deeper, slower, more personal. You may notice your loved one asking the same question over and over again, or they forget conversations from earlier in the day. Maybe they no longer seem interested in the things they once loved. Books go unread, the television is on but they are not watching. They may stare out the window in silence, or respond with just a nod instead of a full answer. This can be incredibly painful, because you know who they are. You remember how sharp, how witty, how lively they used to be, and now they are pulling away, bit by bit. It feels like losing them in pieces, and that slow fade can be even harder than a sudden change. But here is what we need to understand. This withdrawal is not a choice. It is not about losing interest or giving up. It is the mind's way of protecting itself when energy is low. Processing thoughts and emotions takes effort, and when the body is already tired, the brain begins to conserve energy too. One woman I met shared how her mother, once the center of every family gathering, had grown quiet. She stopped leading conversations and started watching from the corner of the room. At first, they tried to bring her back in with questions and stories, but when that failed, they shifted. They started sitting next to her, holding her hand, and simply being present. They learned that even in silence, love was still being exchanged. You might see similar changes. A once talkative father becomes soft-spoken. A cheerful grandmother forgets where she is. These shifts are not signs of disrespect or emotional coldness. They are signs of the brain slowing down. It is also common for people to become confused about time or place. They may forget what day it is or who they just spoke with. They might feel overwhelmed in busy environments or struggle to follow conversation, and in response, they retreat. As hard as this is, your response can make all the difference. Rather than correcting or trying to snap them back into clarity, try joining them where they are. If they think it is morning when it is evening, that is okay. If they call you by the wrong name, do not take it personally. What matters more than words is your presence. Speak gently. Sit with them. Smile when they look at you. Offer reassurance with your tone, not just your words. This stage teaches us something powerful. Connection does not always require conversation. Sometimes a shared moment of quiet says more than 100 words ever could. So when you notice your loved one pulling away, do not assume the love is gone. It is still there, it just looks different now. And when you lean in with understanding instead of frustration, you create a space where they still feel safe, still feel loved, and still feel like themselves. Even when memories fade, love remains. The fourth, frequent infections and delayed healing. Now, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked until it becomes a pattern: infections and slow healing. You may notice your loved one starts getting sick more often, a cough that lingers longer than it should, a urinary tract infection that keeps coming back, a small cut that takes weeks to close up. At first you might think, maybe it is just a coincidence or they need a better antibiotic, but when it keeps happening, when minor illnesses turn into long recoveries, it could be the body's way of telling us something more serious is going on. The immune system naturally weakens with age, but as someone nears the end of life, it slows down even more. The body is no longer fighting in the way it used to. The response is slower, less effective. It becomes easier for viruses, bacteria, and even small injuries to take hold. I remember a man whose mother used to bounce back from everything: a cold, the flu, even surgery. But in her final year, a simple scrape on her leg turned into an infection that would not heal. They tried ointments, doctor visits, and new medications. Nothing worked. Eventually, they realized her body was no longer prioritizing healing. It was saving its last reserves of energy for the essentials. And that is what this stage is about. The body starts focusing only on survival. Circulation slows, making it harder for blood to reach extremities. Oxygen and nutrients do not move as quickly. Healing slows, and infections become harder to beat. What does this mean for families? It means shifting our mindset from fixing to comforting. Instead of asking, how do we stop this? We begin to ask, how can we ease this? That might look like changing dressings gently, keeping their skin clean and dry, offering fluids, and keeping their space warm and calm. It means knowing when to keep calling doctors and when to focus on making someone feel safe. One daughter I spoke to shared how she used to panic every time her father got sick, but eventually she realized that what he needed most was not another round of antibiotics. It was someone to sit with him, rub lotion on his hands, talk softly, and let him rest. There is a quiet kind of care that shows up at this stage. It is not loud, it is not filled with action, it is full of tenderness, patience, the willingness to simply be there, even when nothing seems to be improving. You might feel helpless when infections linger, but being present, being kind, and creating a peaceful environment can make a bigger difference than any prescription. So when you see signs of delayed healing, when the sniffles hang on, or when bruises seem to last too long, pay attention. These are not just medical issues. They are messages. Messages that the body is slowing down. Messages that call us to respond with love. And love, more than anything, is what brings comfort when nothing else can. Another family I knew began keeping a journal, not just about medications or appointments, but about how their mother felt each day. It helped them see patterns and recognize when it was time to stop fighting the symptoms and simply focus on the moments they still had together. That small act brought peace to everyone involved. The fifth, changes in breathing and circulation. Let's talk about one of the final and often most emotional changes we see near the end of life: changes in breathing and circulation. These signs can be quiet at first, but over time they become more noticeable, and for many families, they can be the most unsettling to witness. You might start to notice their breathing is different. It could be more shallow, irregular, or even come in bursts. Sometimes they take a deep breath, then pause for several seconds before the next one. This can be alarming if you are not expecting it. You might ask, are they struggling to breathe? Or should we call someone? But here is the important thing to understand. These breathing patterns are not usually signs of pain. They are part of the body's natural process of slowing down. The systems that once ran like clockwork begin to ease into stillness. There is also something called circulation changes. Hands and feet might feel cold, even if the room is warm. You might notice their skin becoming pale or slightly bluish, especially around the fingers, toes, or lips. This happens because the body is redirecting blood flow to the vital organs. It is focusing on what matters most in those final days. One daughter told me that when her mother was nearing the end, she would hold her mother's hand and feel how cold it had become. At first it scared her. However, the hospice nurse explained that it was natural. So she wrapped her mother's hands in a warm blanket and just sat with her, whispering stories from their life together. These small moments, filled with love and presence, often mean more than any medical intervention. You may also hear a sound called the death rattle. It is a gurgling noise caused by secretions in the throat when someone can no longer clear it. This sound can be upsetting, but it does not mean they are suffering. Medications or repositioning the person can sometimes help, but what helps most is a calm, loving presence. So, what can we do when we see these signs? We can create a peaceful environment. Keep the room cool and quiet. Use soft lighting. Play their favorite music in the background. Sit close, hold their hand, speak gently, or simply stay in silence. It is not about fixing, it is about comfort. If they are struggling to lie flat, help them sit up slightly using pillows. Offer sips of water if they are awake and able to swallow. Use a humidifier to ease dry breathing. And most importantly, remind them they are not alone. This stage is not easy. It brings fear, sadness, and sometimes a deep sense of helplessness. but it also offers a chance to be truly present, to walk with someone through their final chapter, and to offer the most powerful gift we have, our love. Because in the end, even when the breath slows and the body grows still, our presence speaks louder than words ever could. I once heard a nurse say, "You do not need to say much at the end, just being there is enough." And that always stayed with me. In those last moments, what people feel is more important than what they hear. They feel your love, your care, and your quiet strength, and that is what helps them let go peacefully. There comes a moment, and it might not be marked by anything dramatic, when everything just feels different. You look at your loved one and you realize they are not the same. They are thinner, quieter, they sleep more, maybe they no longer want to talk, or they hold your hand a little longer than usual, as if they know. That moment, it is a turning point, not just for them, but for you too. You stop hoping they will bounce back. You stop waiting for the energy to return or for the appetite to come back. Instead, something shifts inside you. You begin to accept, not in defeat, but in love. You realize your role is no longer to fix, but to be there, to sit quietly, to hold space, to bring comfort in the form of presence, not solutions. I remember a man telling me about the moment he stopped trying to make his father eat. Instead, he just brought a warm blanket and sat beside him on the porch. They did not talk much, but his father smiled. That smile said more than words ever could. These final days, or weeks, are not about doing more. They are about being present. When everything else fades, what remains is love. And love, simply given, is what they need most. In these moments, your presence becomes the greatest comfort. You may not have all the right words, and that is okay. Just being there is enough. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than anything you could say out loud. And sometimes, a gentle hand on theirs says, "I am with you. I see you. I love you." So let's take a moment to breathe and reflect. We have talked about 5 quiet but powerful signs that the end may be near, not to create fear, but to bring clarity. When we notice these changes early, we can shift from reacting in panic to responding with love. You may not be able to change the outcome, but you can change the experience. You can create a space that feels safe, calm, and full of compassion. You can let go of fixing and embrace simply being there. That is where healing happens, not always in the body, but in the heart. Whether it is holding a hand, sharing a memory, or just sitting beside someone in silence, your presence is a gift, a quiet act of love that speaks louder than words. This journey is not easy, but you do not have to walk it alone. You are doing more than you know. If this video helped you, even in a small way, I invite you to like it and share it with someone who might need it. You never know who is walking this path quietly, looking for answers. Please subscribe to stay connected and feel free to leave a comment below. Tell us what spoke to you. Tell us your story. Because when we share our experiences, we remind each other that we are never truly alone.